Hello.
What up?
What is going on?
My heart is racing from all that.
Episode
From our what?
number 10.
Hello, everybody. Oh, just the old beer mishap. 30 seconds before we gotta go. Yeah.
The greatest part about that is everybody saw it, and I mean everybody.
Well aware. Yep. You know what? That's a memorable way to first see somebody, right?
What you
40-year-old dork spilling a beer all over himself.
Is there any audio with that too? So I wonder, could he hear us?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Tom, episode number 10.
that's right. And you came in fashion tonight for number 10, wearing your number 10. Folks, what's going on? Make sure to go check us out on all of our social media. We are on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at 1925, the New York Giants podcast. We have a very special guest tonight, a legend, New York Giants legend. If you have any questions for him, make sure to comment in the comment section below. Leave this video a like because it helps with the algorithm, and make sure to share a friend, maybe two. Guys, cheers.
Cheers.
Be careful, George. Cheers.
Fuck you.
George, take it away. Who is our special guest of the
We have one of my favorite players, two-time Super Bowl champion, hell of a linebacker, disgustingly underrated, member of the Big Blue Wrecking Crew. What else could be said? So many memorable plays. Gary Reasons. Welcome.
How you doing, Gary? Thank you for coming
I'm
on.
doing great. I am really enjoying seeing you guys getting prepped for the show. I've been in the broadcast world for a long time, and you guys are right up there. You got a good stand, and I love the graphics. Whoever has done the graphics for the 1925 Giants podcast, congratulations. They're well done. It's good to be here.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Is that Tom or is that Nick? Are you on to Nick or Tom?
It's me mostly, but Tom does
Okay.
a lot of the editing and everything behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
Tom's really the one who keeps us focused. Me and George, we're a mess.
Well,
I mean,
it's good for Giants fans to kind of really know where their start was, and back in 1925 when the Mara family decided to kick off an NFL professional football team. It was cool. A couple of years back, or a year and a half back, it's not that long ago, the 2024 season when the Giants selected their top 100 players. I was part of that group, and bringing that 100 years of playing really into focus really was impressive to be able to do that. And knowing that founding year was how it all started. You guys kind of nailed it.
We appreciate that.
Thank you. That means a
Right,
lot,
thank you
especially
very
coming
much.
from you. Thank you.
So take us back. What kind of a kid were you growing up? Go way back here.
You want to know the truth?
Sure.
I was a pretty decent kid because I was focused. I played sports and everything. I'll give you a little story here. My dad was in the outdoor carnival business. Yeah, get that right. He was an operator of midway games. So he had several midway games that we would set up at fairs and county engagements and different things. And I was a youngster growing up in that environment. I was born in Chicago and I moved down to Texas. And I grew up in Texas, but my life started on the midway and on carnivals. And so I learned how to get free rides on any ride I could get. Just walk up to the ride operator and say, "Hey, I'm with the show." And there I was, man. I got to ride those rides for free. It was cool.
That's a pretty
Can
sweet
you
gig.
Can you give me some of the tricks to these games? Because I bring my four kids.
I certainly can, but I've sworn to secrecy. And there's some really, really tough penalties against us old carnies if we give those out. So I'm going to kind of keep those maybe in an upcoming book. I'll have that firmly put out there.
Kind of
I'll
a
be
blood
buying
in,
it.
blood out.
I lose my ass at these carnivals with the kids. It's like $200-300 to bring 4 kids there. So any kind of help you can send my way.
It's just fun. It's just entertainment.
Oh, I know.
That's what it's all about. Just like this is. This is entertainment, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Sure is.
All right.
Watching George try to drink a beer is pure entertainment.
I'll tell you, I mean, stressful day at work today. I was looking forward to this all day. So awesome. We're really happy to have you here, Gary.
Well, hey, tell me, what are you guys into? I mean, what do you guys do on your 9 to 5, or what do you guys do during the day? And what made you start this type of a podcast to bring to Giants?
Go ahead, Tom. You go first.
So I work for CBS Sports in New York City, and I've been doing a podcast for about 6 years now. And I used to have an old Giants show that was called Big Blue Avenue, and that has branched out into this because I needed reliable co-hosts that I wanted, and George had a vision. George is best friends with my older brother. We had a similar vision. We wanted to put out some awesome content, and here we are on our 10th episode. And you are pretty much our 9th guest, 3rd former Giants player. And
Cool.
yeah, we've been talking about you for a while. We definitely are excited.
So in the television broadcast world, we're always trying to raise the production value of every show that we produce. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you bring in the big guns here for number 10. I like that. That's good.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You want to hear the best part, Gary? So these two didn't know. One night I just started cold calling or DMing, and I picked Leonard Marshall. I was like, I love Leonard Marshall.
Lenny,
He's probably not going to answer you, right? He's not going to answer me.
Louisiana.
So I text these two. I go, hey, I fucked up. And they look at me like, what do you mean? I said, Leonard Marshall wants to do it. We didn't even have a show yet. So we put all
you kind of blew a little smoke up Lenny's rear end, huh?
You sell the sizzle, not the steak, right? So
Okay.
it sounded good. It worked out, and it was a great episode. But we were sweating for like 10 days straight, like just nonstop
What are
working.
we gonna do? This has got to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had absolutely nothing. But then, Leonard came on, and from there we've gotten more guests, including yourself. And, it's something. It's a start. We're having a lot of fun doing it, and that's really all that matters, right?
So do you guys envision having a wrap bus that you take to the games and you set up out there and all those things that go with that? Is that part of the plan?
We would like to do. We would like to do more. No, it'd be great. Just me and George. We're a little further away. I'm up near Saratoga. He's up near Lake George. No pun intended. And so it's a bit of a hike to go to every single game, but we try and make it to at least 2 or 3 a year. And whether they're good or not, I'll still go. I even went to week 17 this year, even though, there was not much in it for us.
So when you guys can't make it, that's when you learn how to send the production assistants to the game to put on everything, make sure that you have a face in the crowd, and continue on with the theme of 1925 New York Giants podcast. You got to make it happen.
No, absolutely.
It's part of my vision. Trust me. I want that insignia to be something people recognize, even obviously in the stadium, for sure.
Yeah, our goal is to try and get out there to as many events. There's a few coming up we're trying to make it to. That's our plan, and then from there, just continue to meet great Giants legends and try and get them on the podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot of us out there. We or at least we're still around. That's we're good to talk to because there's nothing like rekindling some good old memories.
Absolutely. Now, Gary, you mentioned you being a bit of a carny growing up, but when did football come into play? When did that become serious? When did you know, like, hey, maybe this is something I could really do?
Well, it was interesting. I was an 8-year-old kid when I first started playing football, and I was a bigger kid when I was young, obviously, and so I took to the sport. And actually, when my dad and family were traveling, I actually stayed with some friends there in our community, in our neighborhood, so that would allow me to continue to play, in sports when my dad and my mother also participated in the carnival business. But they allowed me to stay with some friends who were very, very gracious to allow me to be there. And so I was able to participate in sports throughout my youth, and it all worked out well. So I grew up in Crowley, Texas. I'm here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I live on the northeast side of the Metroplex in McKinney, Texas. So I'm actually 75 miles from where I grew up. It's on the southwest side of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and in Crowley, Texas. And in the book, I tell a little bit about it. And when I grew up there, it had a population. Check this out: 508 people. I remember the sign very well. 508 people, and fond memories. It was a great little town to grow up. And I was born in Chicago, and my mom and dad hated the winters up there, so that's why they moved south. And my dad could transfer that what he was doing in the carnival world down there, and it worked out well. So it was where I grew up, and pretty ground. I played all sports. Football, baseball, basketball, track. Played a little golf. I fed 11-5 sports and as a sophomore in high school. So that was fun. But, I just grew up that way. And I had my friends that grew up with in the neighborhood, and we were all pretty much wired the same way. We weren't all the same athletically and skills wise, but
right.
We kind of meshed together, and we made the most of what we had on teams. And most of the time we had a good opportunity to win a lot. And but though there's certainly some bumps in the road.
Did you grow up a Cowboy fan?
I did. I was a huge Dallas Cowboy fan. You look back on Roger Staubach in that era, and what he brought to the Dallas Cowboys in this area. It was almost poisonous not to be part of the Dallas Cowboys fandemonium there. And remember way back then, guys. That was I'm talking 1970ish and early 70s. There was only 3 networks: ABC, NBC, and CBS, and all the games were broadcast in different windows. But the network, they pretty much owned live television sports, and so you were forced. And so the team owners back then in the NFL, they realized that they needed to get their DM, their direct market into that funnel, and they broadcast those games on the local affiliates here. And we all had those antennas out there. We were catching signals. There was no such thing as cable. There was no such thing as streaming. It was just catching that antenna cable. Those games got a little fuzzy sometimes.
Fuzzy as hell. My earliest recollection of games had like a green tint to them, just this fuzzy greenish.
It happens. Yeah, it happens, but it's that was the era that kind of got me started in sports and fandom, and I played, and a lot of the tutelage that I had from my young coaches and coaches in college, really kind of grounded me. And I had a couple of stories that if we have time, I'll share. But
yeah,
I had some tutelage that kind of set me straight as to what kind of player I could be and what level of skill that they saw in me moving forward.
I think that's a perfect segue into this next question, Gary, because you weren't heavily recruited coming out of high school. How did that shape your mindset heading into college?
You can take it 2 ways, right? You can let it be a problem, or you can let it fuel the fire, so to speak. And for me, it did the second. And so I really wasn't on the radar. No, at Crowley High School, where I grew up, I would be the first player to play Division I college football on a scholarship. There had never been anybody come through there to do that. So guess what? The scouts weren't coming through there to see me play or to watch back then reel-to-reel tape or film on players. So it just wasn't happening. And so I was able to, after my senior year, I didn't have any offers at the end of the year. And I had a couple of coaches who reached out to some schools, and then there were 2 offers. I had 2 offers, and I took a private plane to Louisiana to go see Northwestern State University, which I finally committed to. I tell a little bit about that in the book, that it was a good place. It was a great fit for me, and I'm really pleased that I did. And things just kind of took off from there. I really had a structured mindset. I was one of those guys that's pretty much wired in of really how am I going to turn this opportunity into something unique. First of all, I was the first person in my family that had an opportunity to go get a college degree. That's something impressive. I was the youngest sibling. I had 3 older brothers and sisters, and sister, and an older half brother. So, but I was the first one to go to college, and that was my priority, because I knew if I was to go to college and get a degree, I was going to have an opportunity to do something other in my life. More meaningful potentially. But that was really the goal. It was the education was really first in my mind, and not necessarily the athletics. But I think the athletics came more naturally to me, and it allowed me to utilize kind of both of them. You guys probably remember a little bit about my playing style. I was kind of one of the cerebral, smart guys. I was able to kind of dissect and act a little quicker, perhaps, than a lot of players. But that was how I was wired. And if you hear me on this podcast, I can carry a conversation. It's not like not like you need to fill in here, but I can carry a little wind. So I actually just turned that to my advantage. With the leadership that you have to have as a linebacker, as an inside linebacker with the defense. I learned that as a high school kid, and on into college and into the National Football League. All those little traits that you learn from people and how they conduct things. That's what made me. And I've shared a lot of those in Reasons to Believe.
That's awesome. So at what point at Northwestern did you start to realize the NFL could be a possibility?
Good question. I actually started as a linebacker my freshman year, mid-season my freshman year, played a lot and worked out really well. So my sophomore year was fantastic. I played lights out, and I made a first team All-American that year, en route to becoming the first 3-time FCS All-American or 1AA All-American in that subdivision history. So pretty good college resume coming out. So my sophomore year, my linebacker coach was a guy named Joe Jones. And Joe had been previously the year before, he had been a lead scout for the Cowboys. And he told me after I had been selected to the All-American team, he grabbed me and he says, Gary, he says, I wanted to talk to you and kind of let you know what I think I see in you. And so we sat down and chatted a little bit. And he goes, not only do I think you could play football right now for the Dallas Cowboys, he said, you would be their starting middle linebacker.
No shit.
I'm 19 years old, and I'm hearing that for a team that I watched as a young kid growing up. And what do you think that the hair on the back of my neck kind of stood up a little bit and kind of took notice of that? And good for Joe with his tutelage and others that were there at Northwestern. And A, keeping me grounded. B, we kind of put a plan in place. And, it's more me being proactive of trying to do the things. I had to put together a junior and a senior campaign that was also telling to be able to, reap the benefits of it. And unfortunately, coming back in those days, even elite players, a lot of athletes slid down the draft ranks because they saw FCS 1AA players as something unproven. Although, you look back now, it really was a foolish thing to think. Possibly could have easily been a first or second round draft pick in the NFL, but I didn't let that bother me. We moved forward, and that was, to answer your question, after my sophomore season in college, making All-American for those time and listening to Coach Jones, it kind of set me on the path.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead,
sorry,
George.
Nick, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So you got drafted in the 4th round. Can you go through that night, what it was like, or that day, whenever you got the call, or you knew it finally got cemented? Like, this is it. Were you just dreaming of New York City? Could you even put it into words?
I'll tell you, 1984 was a really unique year for me. It was a big year. First of all, I met the love of my life, and I got married in March. So we were married, and we lived in an apartment off campus, and we were. Taking life as a company, and really we created and had a draft party, day one. Back then they had 2 days of draft, and my name wasn't called on day one, so I slipped down to day 2, and luckily we had a good little group there. But day 2, when the Giants called, it was pretty matter of fact. It wasn't. Parcells, really great. Reasons, love to have you here. Get up here as fast as you can. We're going to teach you a lot, and look forward to seeing you, kid. That's kind of how it was. It wasn't any fanfare. And I knew that the Giants were a tremendous defense back then. Obviously, they had the tenured linebackers, and I'm thinking to myself, with Harry Carson and Brian Kelly, Brad Van Pelt, and 5'6". Why are they drafting me? And actually, why did they draft Carl? What's going on here? Well, the mindset was already kind of been made that to move on from Brian Kelly and to move on from Brad Van Pelt. That I wasn't aware of that, but those things opened up opportunity for me. Parcells was very much a rewarding the veteran players who had played under him and with him. And so Carl and myself, we were drafted in '84. We didn't start immediately. We didn't play right off the bat. It was actually week 6 when we played Atlanta, and that was our first start together. It was me and Harry and Carl and LT, and that would be the group for the next several years, and couple Super Bowl championships afterward.
There you go. Nick, you're
sorry about that. I got you. What was it like the first time you met Lawrence Taylor? That must have been a trip too, coming into this impressive defense, meeting Lawrence Taylor, meeting this whole team. what went through your head? And there must have been a conflict of interest, kind of, as a Cowboys fan, now as a Giant.
Well, for me, there really wasn't any conflict there. To me, this is going to be my life, and this is going to be how I'm going to carry myself. And I'm going to be a Giant. I'm going to be very proud to be a New York Football Giant, and it turned out that it was. Meeting Lawrence for the first time, yeah, that was kind of an awe moment. There's that thing where this guy, and I've seen him play, and I tell a story in the book about Belichick and how he presented what Lawrence had done previously to us, to all the rookies in 1984. And I'll let you read the book to figure out that story and hear that story. But it was I came into the Giants with a lot of respect for obviously the players who had been there, the veterans. When you walk into an NFL locker room, if you think your crap doesn't stink, you're gonna get knocked down a few times. You're gonna get knocked down a few rungs, and so you need to be respectful of the people who have been there first and foremost, the people who have paid their dues to get there, and be cognizant of what is there already. And I was, and so I wasn't coming in looking to do anything. And Lawrence back then, he was still emerging as a talent. He wasn't fully developed and fully on board with all the Superman things that he was going to be able to do over the course of his career. But it was fun to watch him and see how he produced and how he prepared. I think was really one of the cool things for me, and how he went about his business. And the interaction between him and Parcells and Belichick and the staff and the other defensive players, and myself as well. It was a great locker room. It was one of those things where, when we get back together for reunions, whether it's a 10-year reunion, 25 reunion, this year, guys, it's our Super Bowl 21 40th anniversary.
Wow.
It's going to be fun to be back. And when we're all together, what do you think it is? It's just like we left the locker room yesterday. You wouldn't believe all the stories and things that'll come up. And, we have all these social media tools, and we're able to connect and be a part of everybody on a regular basis. But just getting back and shooting the crap with these guys and, telling our old stories and inflating our stories more importantly of some of our experiences. It's really pretty cool. And to your point, to your question, Lawrence is fantastic, and he has always been that in my eyes.
Definitely a Giants legend. Are you by any chance going to be at the reunion in May?
I expect to be up there. Yeah, at the brewery up there.
Woodbridge Brewing Company.
Yeah, Jack is putting that together for us, and making sure. Hopefully, Jack will finalize everything. I've talked with him about it, getting up there. So yeah, certainly look to be there, and might be a book opportunity. Who knows? I might have to have some of those on hand to share with Giants fans. But it's certainly good to be back. 40th anniversary of our Super Bowl 21 team is special because it's the first New York Football Giants Super Bowl championship team, and we're always going to be remembered as that. We're always going to be remembered in that light as, hey, we were the guys who first got it done to win a Super Bowl for the New York Giants, and it doesn't get any sweeter than that.
That's one of the best. The audio clip of Parcells at the end saying, "For the rest of your life, no one's going to say you couldn't do it." I think that's what he said.
I agree. When he didn't realize it then, but when he put that in perspective, with those few words and with how Bill could deliver it, it certainly was. And Bill wrote the foreword for my book. I shared a little bit of the content with him, and he read it. He called me up. He says, "Gary, this is outstanding. This is good." And I asked if he'd be interested in doing a foreword. He said, "Certainly. Let me." So that right there, and what he wrote in for the foreword in the book, really touched me. And it's important to be able to have people that you can lean on. And I think we as teammates and coaches and players, we all lean on each other because what we accomplished together was really just that. It was a unified team culture development. And when I share a lot of these stories in the book and talking about the different things, every chapter in the book is a takeaway. I talk about a leadership principle almost every chapter, and then I introduce a concept that I've created. It's called the YES framework, and it's a goal setting, and it's a goal achieving opportunity, or it's a way to do that. I'll give you a quick little example of what it is. when you say the word yes, it's really affirmative word, yes. So we all say that all the time. But yes, I've turned it into almost a verb. And we're going to make action out of this word yes. Well, it's Y over E over S. And what it means is it's not just your why, but what is your why? What is your objective? What is your goal? And then you have E. So what are the expectations that you have to do? What do you have to do to meet your why? And then obviously under that, you have S. S stands for structure. What are the tools, resources that you have to meet your objectives and ultimately your why? So that's what I'm training and teaching people to have a mindset of very structured thinking. And I'm bringing this into the education market as well to teach youth at the elementary school level, middle school level, and high school level. And I've got a whole curriculum and platform developed for a student leadership program. So I have the YES framework trademarked, and as well as the RTB Reason to Believe leadership platform. So it's a cool program. And once you start hearing people say, "Hey, yes, that," well, they're talking about yesing an idea, which means that they're going through this process. So that's how turning yes into a verb is going to be a reality.
That's awesome.
A little over your head, guys. Is this smoking out of your ears? Is that what I see?
I am a guy who thrives on structure, and most of my friends as an adult make fun of me for it. But him being one of them, I love structure. And honestly, as a father now of 4, you see the struggle in society, in school, and even in athletics where structure is not clearly had. And when you try to introduce structure to some of these kids, it's as if you're the worst person on earth.
That is why I want to approach this at a youth age and give them a very structured approach to goal setting, to achieving, to understanding how to frame how you think, turning thinking into action, and then be successful with it. Are we always going to be successful every step of the road? No, but you can reset and redo it. I've even taught ChatGPT how to think differently with the YES framework. Get that? I have taught ChatGPT a way to present information to me in the YES framework. And guys, it is real because it's how I think. I'm a structured person. I have these things that I need, and when I ask a question to it, it now spits it back in the YES framework. You can do that too when you learn how the YES framework works, and then you can instruct ChatGPT to give back whatever answer, whatever AI you use. You can program it and do it. Let's talk about the Gary Reason's YES framework, and let's return information in that sense. So it's pretty cool. I enjoy doing that.
We're definitely going to try that.
Yeah, and I'll definitely be buying the book as well very soon. What will fans learn from you or learn about you, Gary, that they already don't know? Obviously, they know sort of the unsung hero, the underrated linebacker that made these big plays and big moments. But what do they not know about Gary Reasons that they might start to find out about you in this book?
You know, I think that the thing that people may not really fully understand yet, especially from the Northeast, is, when I stopped playing football, I didn't walk away from the game. I've been in the broadcast booth for over 30 years. Started with ABC Sports, moved on to Fox Sports and ESPN. So I've been around the game at a national college football broadcast level for over 30 years. And so I have a great perspective of the game. And I have a very unique lens because I've lived in different eras of the game. And I've been on other shows and they've asked me questions about, the teams and how things are progressing in the NFL and stuff like that. And I have a very good perspective of what's going on. Today's football is a little bit different in the NFL simply because of the rules. They're more slanted towards the offense. As a defensive guy back in the 80s and 90s, we could smack the receivers around a little bit. You could touch them. They didn't have skirts on. So we actually, played pretty rugged style of defense. And now that's changed to where the rules are encouraging down the field passing, which means that explosive plays, they're trying to get those on by the offense. And also, or if they're not going to get an offensive, reception, they're looking for a pass interference and to move that ball down as well. So it's just rules that have changed in the game that are a little bit different in today's game. The players are not anymore elite athletically. They're not bigger, stronger, faster. They certainly are not from what we played. And they're really just not a whole lot of that difference. It's really more rules change than anything of how the game is played.
For sure. Going back to your start on your rookie year, who was the first player to welcome you, and was there any players that tested you?
Yeah, well, I don't recall who would be the first who welcomed me, but there's a guy, number 64, who always kind of tried to pester me as a linebacker. Jim Burt, our nose guard, great player, great guy. But he was always trying to make sure that I fit right on my read, which means that he wanted me, because I'm an inside linebacker. There's a nose tackle, and the other inside linebacker be Harry next to me. And however the run play or the pass play was, we all had fits that we had to make. And Jim was always trying to make sure that, Gary, you got to come up in there and take that guard off me. Come on, because Jim was trying to make plays. He was wanting to make plays. So if I'm on the backside, on the inside linebacker, the plays to my right, so I'm coming up on Jim's left, and trying to look at the guard and on the nose tackle. So he's getting double teamed. He's wanting me to absorb that block. But what he didn't realize is if the back dipped and ran to the outside, that became what's called in my mind a fast read instead of just a gap read. So, and he said, "Reason, why didn't you take off that guard?" And I said, "It's a fast read, Jim." He said that to me 1,000 times. He's always tell me to get that guy off me, make a fit. So Jim always had his little quirks about him, but loved him to death, and he was a great player for us.
What a locker room. You just hear about all these guys. Like, I couldn't imagine, Jim Burt, Harry Carson, Carl Banks, Lawrence Taylor, all these guys in one room, one focus, one ambition, all totally different personalities. I couldn't even imagine just seeing all that.
That is the magic that Bill Parcells pulled off. The magic of the structure and the development of our team and our culture. I go into it in the book. I talk about how Bill dealt with everybody on the team, and he deals with everybody fairly. That's not in question. But he dealt with everybody differently, and here's why: because as a leader, you have to understand your team. You have to understand what makes you, and you. Oh, wrong finger, but what makes you tick. And so Parcells had his way of getting an understanding of everybody and pulling and pushing our buttons, so to speak, to make us produce. Coaches in the NFL aren't in the job of making friends. They're not there to be your best friend. They're in the job of winning football games. And if you're not getting the job done, well, they're going to look elsewhere. So you understood that pretty much with Bill, because he gave it to you every day. And every day at practice, as we're coming in there, he's in the locker room. He wasn't up in his office. He was down in the locker room cultivating the culture among our team at an early stage. And that's what you're talking about with all the guys. And the main names that you mentioned were all there. We're all there absorbing it. And, Bill was holding us accountable for our actions and doing things. And, it was a fun time back in the 80s. Okay. And, there were some things that were going on. I was a newly married man, so I'm up there. I've got my son was born in 1984, late that year in November. So we had a child to deal with. So a lot of things were going on with me, and obviously there's things that were going on with the rest of the team as well. But overall, we pulled it together, obviously, and over the next couple of seasons, we finally got it done.
Yeah, you did. Is there anything Mr. Parcells said to you that stuck with you?
A lot, actually. There's so many things that Bill imparted, whether he knowingly or didn't know or didn't purposefully want to say, "Hey, this is something I want these guys to learn," or know, or whatever. I was a sponge of information and trying to assimilate what that information was. I'll give you a nugget. Bill always said, about the media. He goes, "Guys, we are in the business of collecting information and not disseminating information." So we weren't going to be forthright about what we're going to do, how we expect this guy, or give kind of these effusive remarks about players and what we're going to do with them. No, we're not going to do that. Why would we show our hand? So that's a little takeaway that I had from Bill that I've kind of driven with. Kind of pick your time of when you're trying to expose what your game plan is. maybe it may not be until you're fully ready to do so.
And Belichick mastered that even further. I mean, his press conferences when he was head coach were just he didn't give him nothing.
Now, Belichick was kind of that, and just very stoic and very matter of fact, and he did it. He was perfunctory because he had to do it with the National Football League rules. And if he had his way, he would not step in front of a microphone or anything, because the media really, they don't serve any purpose for a head coach or what have you. Most coaches are there to win games first and foremost. They're not there to get an agenda or trying to create like me. I'm here. I'm trying to promote a book. Okay, well, both Bills back then they didn't use the media to have any agenda. Their job is to win football games, coach players to get them across the goal line, or stop them from crossing goal line, and ultimately, we were all successful together.
And just overall, like, how complex was that defense under Belichick? Because obviously you mentioned, he got all of you guys to succeed together as a team. And when you have a lot of very talented players, a lot of leaders in the room, it also takes a great coach to make that happen.
I think Belichick really kind of laid it out there to us, and then we absorbed it, and then we delivered it as players and team. He wasn't looking or asking guys, this is our job. This is your job. And if you don't do your job, I'm going to get the next guy in there. He's very matter of fact about that. So that's how he operated. And he was doing that under Parcells' direction, because that's what he wanted to do. Back then, Belichick was an emerging coach, and he was learning from Bill Parcells. You have to understand that a lot of the things that you see in Belichick today are very, very much so what is exactly what Bill Parcells would have done, and how he did things. There's a lot of things that I see in how Belichick has coached over the years that were certainly from the Bill Parcells kind of school of thought. But Belichick was a very guy who I admired how he prepared and how he put the work in every single week to give us the best chance. When you start looking at game film with him and he sees things the way he sees them, it's a unique thing. And then he shares those tidbits with you, and then you begin to watch tape a little bit differently. And any subtle movement by a player, whether it be a hand flinch or alignment, and you can use that as a takeaway or something that'll advance your preparation to get you to where you need to be to make a play. That's the mark of someone trying to put you in a position where you can succeed on the field. And that is a true definition of a coach.
That's deep. Whoa. So moving forward now, 1989, I don't know, a name you might remember, obviously, Shane Humphrey. There was a little bit of a play where, let's be honest, it's up there in my top 5 plays in New York Giants history. Was Tom, you got the role? This play here, Shane Humphrey coming through. Was this obviously the read, or was this all feel? Kind of walk us through that split-second decision.
It's preparation. Back then, with Elway turning out the way he did in the formation, I knew exactly what the play was going to be on 4th and goal. And my job was to come back and do exactly what I did. I destroyed the running back, and it's Bobby Humphrey, not Shane. But Bobby, he had no chance, because I took off and a little missile launch there, and it worked out. The timing was great, and you saw the ear pad fly out of his helmet, and yeah, obviously it was a very remarkable play. It was a cold day back in the Northeast. Most everybody was watching that game. It was a Sunday afternoon. Only network on watching the New York Giants, as I talked about in that market. So it was one that kind of most Giants fans, when they see me, they certainly remember that play. And plus, it's been replayed millions and millions and millions of time on YouTube and everywhere else. But it's something I'm very proud of, and glad to be able to make that play, to be a part of a 4th down stop, most importantly, to help us win that game, which we needed to get into the playoffs, which we did.
What goes through your mind after that play?
Stop.
Oh, it was an amazing play. What are your thoughts afterwards, though? Are you like, holy shit?
Well, when you see that happen, and I was elated, obviously, and the guys are all coming after me, and I never was anybody who was a player who was trying to call attention to myself on my play. I really, the showmanship that the guys do today in the game, score a touchdown, point for a first down, all this shit, it's shit. It's all it is. It's shit. So I didn't do any of that shit. And Parcells really discouraged all of that. But after that play, I did a euphoric, raised my hands up in the air and going to the sidelines. And that was pure just reaction. And to me, that was the most elated that I have ever been about a play. And I almost couldn't get to the sideline for all the defensive guys beating on me, and all the offensive guys who were coming onto the field were hitting on me about that play. It was a special moment in Denver in 1989. And when I'm on social media, I tease a little bit on Denver in 1989, the hit and all this stuff, and it gets a lot of reaction, and that is so fun. That is so fulfilling to have something that is memorable. And really, what it does is it closes the gap between people, and it closes and it makes you, one little separation away, and communicating and making it something that we can kind of speak the same language. And for us, it's a Giants language, and it's enjoying some really unique times together that myself and the fans have experienced.
Yeah, the impact of that play was outstanding. And that wasn't your only memorable play. Let's go back. 1990 NFC Championship game against the 49ers. I think you know where I'm going with this. So can you walk us through your mindset during that crucial 30-yard fake punt run and what led to that decision?
Well, ultimately, there's that speed and ability right there. Just look at that, guys. That is athleticism at its best. When you look at how big that hole is, we could have drove a truck through there, but I'm trying to get a block there. Nobody would block it.
I know, I saw that.
I saw that.
You're like pointing at him, right?
John Taylor became the greatest open field tackler in NFL history with that tackle. Anyway, I still hold the NFC rushing yards per carry average in the NFC championship game. So that's what I'm going to stick to, 30 yards, and I hold that record. But
that's a great
stat. What better way to propel our team to the victory, to set us up for a field goal, which Matt came through, put that ball to the post, and another one to get us to win the ball game. It was dynamic. It was cool. That was one of those plays where I had the opportunity to call the play or not to play. I audible to the play, and literally, if you saw the play again, when you'll think about it, that right where I ran, the 49ers only had 10 players on the field. And right there's nobody in that gap. So we would have blocked him because we had an extra player. But you see right there, Robbie Jones blocks down, but he didn't have to. He was going to block straight ahead on the guy who was there, and I was going to get through that hole anyway. So there were only 10 guys there. There was one sitting on the bench. So it made my path just a little bit easier to execute.
And that was obviously something you guys picked up on film in preparation, that they were leaving that side of the field a little open. That gap was going to potentially be there.
No, it was actually if you could cue that back up on the outside, they were doubles. What we call two. Stop. Hold it right there. Stop. Oh, You can't stop it. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those weird clips.
It's really good though. I like the footage. But you can see at the top, there's two guys on our gunner, two guys on the gunner on the outside. So if you have in the middle, you would have 6 players at the line of scrimmage and 1 returner. There were only 5 players and 1 returner. So pretty simple math for me that I knew, hey, it's in our favor here. But when I ran that, it was right to where that situation worked out. So I was our fullback on our punt team for a number of years. For every year that I've been with the Giants, I never had a punt blocked on my watch. Sean Landetta, he did miss a ball that in Chicago that it's not a block, but he just he missed the punt. Anyway, well, not going to talk about that subject, but it all worked out well. And I had run that same play against the 49 in the Broncos game. In that game with the hit, I called a fake punt in that ball game. Here you go. Look,
we could stop it now.
Count the players.
We're already advancing.
So there's 2 at the bottom, 2 49ers at the bottom, 2 at the top, and there's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And right where you guys are great, right where I'm running, you're seeing here, there's only 5 players for the 49ers. And so there's 3 on this side. They're a little light on the other side. It worked out well, and my elusive speed got through there, and it's all history here.
It's a nice little point. Now you were pointing for trying to get a block. Or
I needed help, man. I needed a blocker, and didn't work out. So I'm trying to do a little footwork there, and John Taylor just shows how much he of a tackler he is.
Love that. Love that.
I should have done my best hurdle there, and unfortunately, just it didn't come to me.
I'm surprised you didn't lower the shoulder and just try to bull him.
Well, he was going low, and I kind of
he got pretty low on him.
Yeah, he did get low.
I pretty much should have gone over him, and if I'd have hurdled him and gotten the end zone, that would have been the best NFL play of all time. So it's just me saying,
No, it would have been pretty good. What's it like when you go into a stadium right before a game? How does it feel to mentally prepare going into the locker room? What's that feel like? Do you have any rituals, any routines you like to do before a game?
I'll give you that from a couple of perspectives. One, as a 9-year guy in the National Football League, and also 30 years in the broadcast booth. It's really very similar. So when you are preparing to go and play, you've got all the tutelage and all the scouting report as a player that you've taken from the entire week. And in the NFL, your practice week basically starts on Wednesday. Tuesday is basically the day off for most players and most teams. So Wednesday through Saturday is when what your prep is. And then Sunday, I was in execute mode. You just go play. You just go do your thing. And I just had a little structure of how I did things, and I really kind of was pretty vanilla. And I didn't get up or hot. I was not a really high emotional guy or a low emotional guy because I thought that would take too much energy away. But sure, when you walk into the Giant Stadium or any other stadium in the NFL, and you feel the vibe of the fans and everything, it's certainly a little bit thrilling, and that is something that you carry on to the field and play. I felt a little warmth. There's always that little warmth of that anticipation of playing, and it carries you through. And when you play the game at the speed that you play in the National Football League, it is different. It's special. So obviously from high school to college, there's an elevation of players and the speed of the game, and it's the same thing that happens from the collegiate level to the National Football League. The speed of the game is heightened, and you have to take that into account. But if you're there, it's there because you're supposed to be there. You've earned the right to be there. You just don't get there blindly, and right. You just don't get there because somebody said that you could do this. You get there because you put the time and you put the work in. You deserve to be there, and that goes for everybody who lines up on the field in the National Football League. They've earned the right to be there. Sometimes guys execute. Sometimes it doesn't go their way. Sometimes injuries are a factor and take guys out of the game. But for the most part, guys have earned their right to be there. For every opportunity that they have, and I'm grateful for my chance to be in the National Football League. One of the unique things that I was really cool about is my time in the NFL. I played 9 years. 8 for the Giants, 1 for the Bengals my last year, 92. I never had a major injury. I never had a surgery. I was never off the field. I played through slight bumps, bruises, sprains, those kinds of things, but never had a major injury. That's and let incredible. Me tell you a story. That's pretty remarkable. And then you fast forward to last year, 2025, 5/15/25. May 15th, 2025. I'm driving down the road in Louisiana, 11:30 at night. We had just taken my mother-in-law to a trip to Shreveport, and we're bringing her back to a little town of Natchitoches in northwestern state. And going down Louisiana Highway I-49 south of Shreveport, and I see cars moving around in the highway. We're going 75 miles an hour, and I'm in my truck, Ram Limited truck, and all of a sudden, I see in front of me something. It looks like a log, and I couldn't avoid it. I went right through it, and it was an alligator. I hit an alligator, and just think of that. And so, I moved over the side of the road and everything, and people had already hit it already, and it was pretty amazing. But from hitting that alligator was really the only injury that I've had. My knee slid and hit the dash, and it popped my cartilage in my left knee, and so this is just a little scope there, and but I've got that cleaned out. I'm
I hope he didn't hit another alligator.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm back.
You
I'm
froze
back.
a
There
little
must have been a little glitch, but the alligator didn't fare so well. But my truck got totaled, by the way. It was
From
a
an
total
alligator?
loss on that vehicle, and mother-in-law and my wife were all well. But my story about this is, I've hit some big old boys in the NFL, and I've taken them down, but I couldn't take down that alligator. He got me.
He got you. That was the hardest hit of your life.
Wow.
It really was. It literally was.
That's wild. How big was the alligator?
15 feet, big boy.
Oh, so it's way bigger than I thought it was. Like we don't in the North.
You take a log, it's wrong, big, and I reach probably 12 feet here. He's longer than my reach.
Right.
That's wild.
That's terrifying.
Only imagine. What do you you talked about obviously hitting an alligator. There's probably nothing like that, but how do you feel about the evolution of hitting, like tackling rules compared to your era? And do you think you'd be able to adapt your game to play linebacker in today's NFL?
Well, let me answer that this firstly is that, anything to bring safety to the game is good for players.
Mm-hmm.
And really for tackling and rules, they've made some changes, obviously, over time to be able to help players become more safe in tackling and longevity and really taking, those helmet-to-helmet contacts out of it as much as they can. But unfortunately, it is so fast of a game and everything is so reactionary and just, you're just turning off and all of a sudden, boom, there you are. You're in a situation you had no control over, yet they call a penalty on you. Go figure. But, it happens. But from a collegiate broadcast perspective, I've seen those rules change the game. And I've seen players get instructed at a youth level and come up through understanding these rules. And it has changed tackling behavior. The behavior has changed. And therefore, you're going to see much less problems with cognitive ability and concussions. And so the numbers are very promising of what's happening out there as far as those going down because of tackling precision and being able to tackle with the V of the neck here instead of making something with a head-to-head. I was taught to, form tackle, hit this right up under the chin, just like you guys, may have been taught. I don't know what, but that was how I was taught to tackle, and I carried through on that on most occasions.
You sure did. So going back to your career, you always struck me as a guy kind of behind the scenes, maybe lack of a better term, the dirty work guy, but 330 career tackles, 10 interceptions. You were always kind of like that backbone that maybe people didn't always talk about right away outside of the other linebackers on the team. Is that exactly how you wanted your career to go? Like you did everything your way, or would there be anything you would have done different in your play style?
Well, I would be lying to you if I didn't say, what, I think I played well enough to make all NFL, all pro, some of those, accolades. I had some good seasons and good times, but we had players on our team that were getting recognized with those, and obviously so with Harry Carson, Lawrence Taylor, those two guys, and NFL Hall of Famers, and justified. And I'm glad that they're there. They were my teammates, and I'm happy for them. I didn't have the accolades because back then we just, they weren't voting. Players voted back when I played for that, and they weren't voting all four of us in. And Carl had some accolades. He and I were together. In 1984, we made all rookie team together, and Carl didn't get a whole bunch of accolades early on either. So it's been late in his career that he started getting some of that stuff. But Carl was a tremendous player as well. I think that our whole defense really kind of shined back then, and we had a lot of guys step up and played exceptionally well. And I look back at the top 100 guys, and I think if I remember right, I played with 24 or 25 of those guys in the top 100.
Mm-hmm.
So that just goes to show you what level of talent that we had. And it brought a couple of championships to New York.
Did you being overlooked ever fuel your fire, if you will?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everybody, if you don't find ways to inspire yourself, you're not going to achieve. You need to find those things that make you tick. That's what Parcells was trying to do, trying to find the things that kind of make you who you are and where you're from and what you're about and where you're going. And once you kind of assess that, take that, and there's a thing said, you got a chip on your shoulder. Well, I didn't play with a chip on my shoulder. I didn't say anything about it, but purposely I let it kind of just fuel me to be a little more direct, a little more physical, a little more headstrong, and just how to go about things. One of the things that I learned a long time ago, especially with the Giants, is that I never wanted to come off the field, because the reason I didn't want to come off the field was that you never knew if that was going to be your last time on the field.
Right.
And so I played through pain, injury, and all those things. And as I said, I never had an injury. You talked to the legendary head trainer Ronnie Barnes of the Giants for many, many years, and he would tell kids, players coming in about me and my story. I never had injuries and stayed on the field. And Ronnie just every time I see him, he remarks that, "Yep, here's the Iron Man. There you go." But not many people realize that about me in my career, how much of a longevity that I had. Never missed a snap.
What would you say? It's a little bit of blind luck and a little bit of conditioning, as far as never really getting injured?
No, for the blind luck, because I was very preparation-minded, preparation-oriented, and fit very much. I fit on plays well, so I wasn't going to get hit by somebody in an awkward way that was going to be injurious to me. So I had that in my favor, and I've got a body chemistry that played well to the position, and my size and makeup and speed. And I wasn't moving too fast on the field, just to tease myself, because everybody says I couldn't run, but you can't turn the clock on and adjust it for time to get in motion to get to that ball carrier. I had no trouble doing that.
So I hope we could have you for just a couple more minutes. We're almost wrapped up here. I just had
let's do it.
3-part question involving your time with the Giants. Who was the funniest guy in the locker room? Is the first part.
Funniest guy in the locker room. I loved Mark Collins. Mark MC was always joking. When we traveled, boy, he had fun. And William Roberts was a prankster as well. Man, those two guys would keep you laughing. And when we get back together, guess what? Who's the pranksters? Who's the most jovial? It's those two guys. Just love them to death, and they really kind of kept a little bit of a light air with us. Obviously on travel, they were able to let their hair down a little bit and kind of have some fun, especially because we're usually traveling back after victories and things like that, which is a good way to travel with your buddies. If you have a successful outing, or whether it's you go to the deer stand or whatever your calling is. If you come back after a successful event, you're obviously a little more jovial and happy about it. Those two guys come to mind when you're talking about, who were some of the funniest guys.
All right. So then who would be the biggest trash talker on the team?
There wasn't a whole lot of trash talking going on, because we were, as a team, I think we were very well grounded in that, there's nothing that needs to be said. If you're kicking their tail, you're kicking their tail. If you're getting your tail kicked, guess what? You're getting your tail kicked. And hopefully it's not the latter. But there's no point in a professional environment in sports to where you're trying to get under somebody's skin, because you never know what you're going to get. I'll just leave it at that. You don't know if you're going to poke the bear the wrong way to get some outcome that you weren't really expecting.
And then finally, it might have even been yourself. Who was one guy that nobody messed with in the locker room? Nobody.
I think there were probably a dozen guys that really had the fortitude.
I thought your answer was going to be everybody.
No. I mean, there's a dozen guys that I think that really were the backbone of the team, and the fortitude and the toughness. And we walked the walk, and we were the leadership of those teams. And there was a credibility of being in that light, and that the understanding of what goes on with your style of play. And we all were similar in that we played tough, we played physical, we played smart, we played under a scheme that we had to rely on. Because if you go outside of the scheme, whatever it is, whether it's an offensive player or defensive player, if you go outside of the scheme, you set yourself up for failure, and you set the team up for failure. We didn't do that. We played as a team. The culture was developed as a team. So I'm not telling you that any one name or anybody else that was a badass or anything like that. I think there's a lot of badasses in our team, I'll be honest with you, because we
that's why I had the question, because I don't know
we were a tough bunch.
I don't know who I'd be the most terrified of. I look one way, Leonard Marshall's over here, Gary Reasons is in front of me, Carl Banks is scary, Lawrence Taylor, he's wandering around. I would be terrified. Even your cornerbacks were over 6'2".
Well, there's kind of stories that were written in the media about the offensive lines were intimidated by Lawrence and Leonard and our whole defense and how physical we are. We dominated the offensive front. We dominated for years. And if you can't run the ball, if you can't execute because the defense is just taking it away every single play and it just chokes you, that's who we were. That's what we did. And we did it every single Sunday, and it wasn't any different. The effort wasn't different. And good to the teams that beat us because they executed a play or two at a higher level than we did. But they still took a whipping because that's what we were all about.
Yeah, I think the more I sit here and listen to you talk, Gary, the more it makes me think I didn't have to watch your career off of VHS tapes because I just missed your career. But speaking of your career, you were inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame back in 1996 and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in 1997. What do those honors mean to you after your pro career was over?
Great question. And really, both of them are, very, very big honors. First of all, the College Football Hall of Fame, there's been 5.4 million players play the game of college football. You put that into perspective, and now there's just under 2,000 guys in the College Football Hall of Fame. That's a very, very elite company to be in, and very, very thankful. More importantly for me, with my collegiate career, the legacy that I left at Northwestern State and the ability that I have. I'm still involved with the university. I call their games for ESPN Plus here recently, and in a month I'm going to go back and see the spring game, and I'm a booster and going to put on a nice event there for the team, and still continue down that path. So I'm very, very appreciative of my college career and being recognized. Just give you a couple of names that were part of my draft, my induction class. Terry Bradshaw, Walter Payton, Neil Lomax.
Wow.
There were a few others, but just that's the quality that I was being inducted with of the players, and it was really inspiring to me to be a part of that. And the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. When you look at the legends and things coming from out of LSU, obviously, and the other sports state schools, universities, there's a lot of talent there. There is so much talent coming out of Louisiana, in particular. And for myself to have the accolades, first ever 3-time All-American at Northwestern State, retired my jersey after my senior year, and playing as long as I did the National Football League, and a couple of championships along the way, and 30 years in the broadcast booth, and I'm still doing things for the university now. There's history there that I'm so appreciative of. First, I found my wife in Natchitoches, Louisiana, in 1984, and so my true sports and professional career started in 1984, and she's been by my side for over 40 years now.
That's incredible. Cheers.
Absolutely.
That's such a cool story, having all that happen in one short time, and you fast forward to now, and it's still there. That's great.
And so that brings me full circle to Reasons to Believe. And it's a reason that I wrote the book. I'll tell you, it was pretty special to be able to see this. I got a couple copies up there, but if you can't see it, this is what you get. This is a paperback version. And this to me is kind of momentous about. There's a lot of things that I share in here about, personally about myself and also about my experiences from the playing field to the broadcast booth to as a business executive. All those things are in there, and it all comes to a head when I build it into what's called a Reasons to Believe platform, and then we have the YES framework, which is what I told you earlier about the goal setting, Y over E over S. It's really appreciative for me to be able to share experiences, and when you've been doing the things that I've done over the last 40 plus years. And now I'm in the mindset of sharing back knowledge and helping others and trying to share a way for others to achieve. It's fulfilling for me to be able to do that, and I really appreciate that opportunity. I'm going to tease it out here a little bit. This book may not be my last. There may be some others in the offing, but I really enjoy it, and I've got a real goal to bring some of this, what I'm teaching in Reasons to Believe, to the youth education market, and I think that's going to be a real fun thing to do, because I can share so much knowledge and experiences with youth through this platform that it could be amazing.
That's awesome, and we want to close here with some comments because you have quite a few fans, Gary, in the comments section. Darlene Brown says, my all-time favorite New York Giant, Gary Reasons.
Smart lady, Darlene. I love you, sweetheart. Take care.
And quick comment from my mother, big fan of yours as well. I love hearing the old stories and memories that these guys share. I hope they know how much their fans appreciate them.
I hear that all the time. Thank you, Patty. I appreciate those comments. Let me tell you something, guys. When I travel back to the Northeast and I see Giants fans and I see them in Giants gear, and I may have a Super Bowl ring or two with me, I kind of mosey over to some of these people, and when I show these Super Bowl rings to these kids and their parents, you should see, not the kids light up, but the parents. Oh my God, this is amazing, and that's the excitement that we're able to deliver, and we get that. And I'm not the only guy doing this. There's my teammates are just like me. We want to inspire and thrill others with this, and we always have a commonality with these championships that we've endured and put together. So we were able to achieve these things. It kind of grounds us, and it makes us want to give back, and that's where I'm at right now, and I'm very appreciative of the ability to do so.
That's, excuse me. The book came out yesterday, correct?
The book was scheduled to come out on the 24th, which was Tuesday. I don't know what is today, Wednesday?
Today's Wednesday, yeah.
Today's Wednesday. Okay, yesterday, Tuesday, but it actually hit on Sunday. Believe it or not.
Oh.
I use Amazon KDP. It's called Kindle Direct Publishing, and actually, they tell you 24 to 72 hours when you first publish a book of when it comes out, and if you don't have problems. So they have a really stringent process that they do, and we had no issues, no problems. So basically, it went as planned and early. So we kind of opened it up early. I'm actually doing something special for the first 250 purchasers of the book. If you want to get a signed autograph cover of this book, it's the full wrap of this. It'll be front and back, and I'll sign and autograph that. But just go to GaryReasons.com and click on the RTB 250 tab, and then if you take a screenshot of your purchase, whether it be a Kindle's on there for $1.49. I've got the e-version. We should have 1 million of these sold by now. But it's up there. It's going to be up there for another 24 hours at $1.49. Then you have paperback, which is this copy, and then there's a hardcover as well. So those books are all available on Amazon. Just search Gary Reasons on Amazon. And if you do read the book, and I think you guys will do it and get a kick out of it, do leave a comment, because it helps. Just like you talked about earlier, I was laughing when you said it helps the algorithm. Hey, I understand that verbiage, and it's the same thing for Amazon and when they rate these books. We did raise yesterday to with our RTB launch team. We were able to achieve number one status on the new author books or the I forget what the category it is, but we reached to number one. So my goal was to get to the number one on Amazon bestseller list. And so we got to number one new author rank. So thanks to Giants fans in New York and everybody who got there, but there's still work to do. Buy the book, just let it keep going up. And there's more stories to tell. You can tell that I'm long-winded, and I've got a lot of gas in the tank left, and
there you go.
a lot of stories to share. And there's a lot of things that I have not kind of given away to in literary works or even on broadcast that I think would be fun. I've got a concept that I have developed, and man, I think it's going to be a hit. When I come back here, you guys need to ask me about this, and you'll see that Gary's just not sitting around on his doing nothing. He's kind of got a plan to move things forward. So
that's the one thing that's incredible.
That's a tease in broadcasting. If you don't know.
I love that.
That's one of the biggest things I learned doing this podcast, talking to the retired players. You guys do way more shit after the game of football than I ever thought I personally would do if I was retired from football. I mean, between you, Leonard, Perry Williams, like these guys, you guys just talk about all the effort and work, and you're still working. And it just blows my mind. Like in my head, it'd be like, oh, I play my 10, 12, maybe 15 years max, and then just kick it up in Florida somewhere and play golf. But not the case with the New York Giants.
It's not. I'm not one of those guys that's going to let the Grim Reaper just kind of grab me and say, "Hey, buddy, you're going to, your time has come." We're trying to be out there and be active and blow the doors off this thing and just have fun.
Yeah.
And being able to interact with fans and in the true nature of Giants fandom and what they've endured, and I'm a sponge for all of those stories. Everybody tells me their stories whenever I'm at a signing event or somewhere, and people come up to me and talk to me about their Giants experiences. I'm all ears because we're all together. And what better way to share life experiences than with a fan, and they're very appreciative of the efforts that we had and bringing some joy to their lives, through our championships. And that's a common theme that we all share. So we're all about it. And hearing Perry and Leonard out there doesn't surprise me one bit that they're taking heed of this.
Yeah, let's hope we can get
Gary,
back to that.
thank you so much for being here tonight. Gary, Reasons to Believe. Book's out now. I will be purchasing it in a hard copy book. I can't do the Kindle thing. I can't do it. I don't know what it is. It could be free. I still can't do it.
It's because it didn't exist in 1994. It's exactly what it is.
Except for, you got to be careful. You don't want to spill that beer on those pages. Now
I wish we recorded that.
Me too. That was good.
It happens. But you guys got to remember that guests in the queue, they see and hear you too.
Yes, sir.
Tonight was the first time though where I was like, we need a minute. Usually, honestly, this week for the three of us has been crazy. Tom's working on the NCAA. Me and Nick's work life has been nuts this week. So this week was a little more, let's say, not as normally we're a little more prepared an hour out to post than today. So when he said he was here, and as soon as he said that, I cracked the beer open and it started spilling everywhere. I was like, shit, I need a minute. And it's all over the place. I'm in my basement. I'm like panicking. And I'm glad you got to see all that.
Between the four of us.
Well, guys, thanks for coming into my office. And you see my two teams here, the Super Bowl 21 and 25 teams, the Super Bowl trophy behind me, my linebacker group up here. I put a couple of books in front of a couple of Emmys up there, but don't worry about those. It's all in fun here. You see that picture on this shoulder over here, that one up there, you see my legs up there running. That was a portrait of the Denver run. No, yeah, excuse me, that was the San Francisco fake punt run. And on the other one over here, I can't point the right way. It's over here. Okay. I'm tackling my college teammate, Bobby Hebert, number 3 here from Northwestern State University. I sacked him in the Superdome. So I had to keep that one up there. So that's pretty cool. So
I love that.
Yeah. One of these days I'll do a podcast and I'll turn the camera and I'll show you the bookshelves. And there's some stories there.
Awesome. We'd love to have you back sometime, Gary. You were great. Thank you
thank
so
you, man.
much. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Enjoyed it very much. And best of luck to you guys. And go 1925 New York Giants podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Well, episode number 10.
In the
Gary
books.
Reasons. That was fun.
Yeah,
He was phenomenal, but I'm going to be honest with you. The beer spill, that was one of my favorite things that ever happened.
For those of you guys who don't know, we're literally 2, maybe 3 minutes max from go time. And I've had this beer down here ready to be opened. And I usually systematically, because I'm a psychopath, I open it right before 2 minutes. So I do that today. Mr. Reasons was in the queue, clearly had audio and visual of what was going on. I spill this beer all over me. And I'm holding it and I'm like, shit. And I'm panicking because it's like, we got to go on like now.
Yeah, but you were also, there was foam all over your face and you're like, and I'm supportive.
That's the thing. Pre-show, we're a mess. The second we go live, everything's fine. Every
all
week,
good.
it's the same thing. It's the same thing. George knows it.
He must have been like, this goddamn idiot.
Some first impression. Every time
look
you
at
think of Gary Reasons, you think of a beer spill.
Look at this fucking goober.
He might not remember our show long term, but he'll remember that he had a podcast where the fucking dweeb that was doing it spilled the beer all over him and was panicking and ran away to get napkins. 35 seconds from post. That's a true professional. By the time the intro played, I was ready to go. My pants are wet.
Because of the beer?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Any other comments from the class, Tom?
We had a couple. This one from Google Maine. Dumbass Cowboys fan here. Love y'all old school 90s uniforms. I'm 44 now. I remember the 90s like yesterday. Y'all boys keep doing your thing. Thank you. Google.
Thank
You got it. And you are correct. You are a dumbass Cowboy fan. I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
What about
Maybe Mr. Reasons can reach out to other Giants players for future shows. George, we might have something lined up, right? Or are we?
I'll give a little
anything
hint.
or not yet?
I'll give a little hint. The player was actually mentioned tonight organically.
Really?
he was? Yes, he
He
was.
was.
Maybe I don't
mentioned.
even know who it is, folks. I might be in the dark about this too, with all of you watching. So it might just be a George and Nick thing here. I'm out of the loop. These guys are tied to the hip. They're together, most days of the week, right? You guys are
Yeah, it's fucking
on the
great.
job. On the job. Well,
So, episode
next
10.
week?
What are we doing next week?
Nothing.
I am going to Indianapolis for the Final Four. Oh, unfortunately, I'll be out.
You think Tom can leave us keys to the Ferrari here? Or?
Keys to the StreamYard. Maybe do a little crash course after dark show next week.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's going on. Can you drive?
I'm not sure. Anyway, Gary Reasons to Believe, buy the book, out now, Amazon. It's in Kindle format, paperback and hardcover, I believe, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yep. And remember, the first 250 will receive an autographed copy. I know I'm looking forward to it. I know you two are definitely looking forward to it. We're all big readers here. And once again, an honor to have a legend like Gary Reasons on. Thank you again, man. And yeah, anything else, guys?
And if anybody out there wants to have me and Nick hop on their podcast next week, here's your chance.
What is this? Am I getting duped?
No, not at all. But you're going to be busy doing NCAA stuff, which is what's going to pay for your bills and lead to a happy marriage and forever, ever after, right? So if anyone out there, we're just saying, me and Nick, we're not going to take over your show. If you want to have some fun times with a guest who spills beer all over himself, we're your guy.
Yeah, you should beg a little. What can you bring to the table?
Please buy our product.
Yes, absolutely. Folks, speaking of our product, if you want to watch more of our content, make sure to go check us out on all of our social media panels. And a replay of this interview with Gary Reasons will be available on our YouTube page at 1925 Podcast Big Blue. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well at 1925, the New York Giants podcast.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Fellas. Have a good night.
Go Giants. You might see us next week. You might not. I'm not really sure. Me and Nick
No,
might go alone. I don't know what we're doing.
Nobody
But-
likes us. We're off.
Cheers.
We're gonna miss Tom though. So let's have a cheers to Tom.
Okay. Yep. Third cheers. Let's go. Folks, if you're watching, do a cheers.
You've had a long week. Finish. Fucking chug it. Chug it, Tom.
Oh, yeah?
Chug it.
Gonna do this live?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom. Bottoms up, buddy. Look at that.
There you
All
go.
that,
Just
all
like-
that Snapple right down the gullet.
Cheers, everyone. Good night.
cheers. Have a good night.
Fuck the Cowboys.